In this lesson, we will draw a measurement plan without using a ruler. We'll estimate the proportions of the room by eye and mark the dimensions. Later, based on this, we'll be able to come up with different options for our interior. My friends, now we're going to make a sketch of our future space together. Some of you might want to do just one room, while others may want to do the entire apartment. I'll show you sketch by eye, no ruler, to quickly and easily make a sketch of the apartment and add dimensions to it. You decide for yourself which space you want to use. Maybe you'll be drawing your own room. Start by outlining your space. I call it a space because everyone has their own. Quickly sketch your apartment and add dimensions. Choose which space to use. Maybe your own room. For some, it's a room. For me, it's a one-room apartment. The most important thing to keep in mind when you start making a sketch is to carefully determine the proportions of your space. Proportion in this context refers to the ratio of length to width. In my particular case, the apartment will fit nicely into a square shape. And if we're talking about the apartment, then the outer. First, determine proportions, then draw the outer load-bearing walls, draw the walls thick, and make the interior partitions inside the building thin. In my case, there will be a loggia in the apartment. A loggia is part of the apartment, while a balcony is usually drawn. We will draw the exterior walls thick and make the interior partitions thin. In my case, there will be a loggia in the apartment. The loggia is part of the apartment, while a balcony is usually drawn on the outside. I'm drawing the partitions. The partitions inside the room will be thinner. In each apartment, they have their own thickness. So for now, we draw the exterior walls schematically and approximately as thick, and the interior walls as thinner, but they still have some thickness. Here, of course, I'm also deciding on the entrance door, just sketching it out schematically for now, marking the entrance door even. We draw schematically approximately. The exterior walls are thick, the interior walls are thinner, but they still have some thickness. Here, of course, I'm deciding on the entrance door, also just schematically for now. I'm marking the entrance door. I can even show how the door opens. This is how it's drawn. Here, I'll have the bathroom. You can erase any unnecessary lines that you've made. I start drawing with a pencil, pressing lightly so that these lines can be easily erased. If your line goes a little crooked somewhere, it's not a big deal because we're making a sketch. You could also call it a sketch. A kind of sketch. The room is still very schematic for now. Erase any unnecessary lines. I start drawing with a pencil, pressing lightly so these lines are easy to erase. If your line is a bit crooked, it's not a problem, since we're making a sketch. You could call it a sketch, a quick drawing. You can always adjust it. Mark where the windows are. Where are the windows in your room or apartment? In my case, there's also a doorway to the balcony. In architectural graphics, windows are shown like this. This is how we indicate the window unit. So we've drawn it schematically. I drew a one-room apartment. You might have just one room, maybe your own. If you want to create such a design proposal for your own room, to make our sketch easier to perceive, I'll take a liner, a thick one, 0.7, and outline it. When we outline our sketch, we can still make adjustments. So if you marked something with a pencil and you're not satisfied with it, maybe you think it's a bit crooked, you can correct it. We try to draw the lines in one go without stopping, and you can correct it. We try to draw the lines in one breath, that is, without stopping, from one point to another, from one corner to another. And it's perfectly fine if we get these little tails in the corners, see? In architectural graphics, that's even considered a stylistic technique. Where we have a doorway, we don't outline it. And these little tails in the corners don't just appear by accident. In order to create a sharp right angle, not smoothed out or blurred, but a really crisp one, it's best to actually cross the lines. That way, you'll get the sharpest corner. Wall thicknesses can vary. Exterior and interior walls can also be thinner. And this wall here, as you can see, is thinner. And this one is even thinner. That happens. If you take a close look at the walls in your room or apartment, you'll notice that their thickness can be quite different depending on what they're made of and whether they bear any load, whether they're load-bearing walls. Load-bearing walls, of course, are thick because they support the floors above. Usually these are exterior walls, but there can also be some load-bearing walls inside. Now take a look at this. What they're made of and whether they bear any load, whether they're load-bearing walls. Load-bearing walls, of course, are thick because they support the floors above. Usually these are exterior walls, but there can also be some load-bearing walls inside. Now take a look. I'll draw a door and show you which way it opens. This is how a door is depicted in architectural drawings. So this here is the door itself. This is the door, and this is the path it takes as it opens or closes. You can even show the door with two lines. And here, this shows how it closes, the path of its movement. For now, at this stage, we're drawing in a schematic manner by eye. And I can, the door, and this is its movement path, how it opens or closes. You can show the door with two lines. Here's how it closes, the movement path. For now, we're drawing schematically by eye. I can use a thinner liner to make the window frames with a finer line. This is the schematic plan we have. In order for it to be understood and perceived better, or as they say, to be more readable and visually clear, I will now fill the walls with a rich, deep, dark color, for the sake of clarity. Then I'll use a thinner liner for the window frames. This schematic will be clearer once I fill the walls with a dark color. Where I have corners or closer to the edge, I draw the line with the fine tip of the marker. For some wider areas, we can cover them with the broad side of our marker, which means using the wider, flat part of the marker tip instead of the narrow edge. This way, the process goes faster because we can fill in larger areas more efficiently. You can really see how much more expressive our sketch becomes as the broader strokes add a sense of movement and energy to the drawing. To make it neat, I still pay attention to the edges and try to keep the lines clean, so the final result looks tidy and intentional. I use the fine tip of the marker to carefully fill in the corners so I don't miss any spots or leave any gaps. Just like that. And then I fill in the inside area with the broad side of the marker, which helps cover more space quickly and evenly. Like this. Look, here I have a loggia and I'll draw the railing for it. I'll draw the railing like this, following the lines carefully. I'll take the pencil and go over the line to make sure it's straight and clear. Look at what a nice little plan we've got. Again, let's agree on something. I took a one-room apartment, but you can choose a much smaller space. For example, your own room. I'll erase the pencil line. Look at what a nice little plan we've got. Again, let's agree on something. I took a one-room apartment, but you can choose a much smaller space. For example, your own room. The main thing at this stage is to capture the proportions of your space. That is, proportions are the ratio of length to width. Or for example, if you have an apartment, you need to see how all these rooms interact with each other and draw a sketch like this, schematic. But in order for our sketch to be as informative as possible, we need to add dimensions. And let's draw the dimension lines with the thinnest line. And look, this is called a dimension chain. This means that from wall to wall or from corner to the corner, we draw a dimension line, and then we carefully mark all the window and door openings. What does it mean to mark them? It means from the corner we draw a dimension line and then we mark all the window and door openings. What does it mean to mark them? It means we indicate at what distance from the corner the window is located. So look here and we put down the measurements. The measurements are given in millimeters. So if I have If the distance from this corner to the window is 60 centimeters, then I will write it in millimeters, which will be 600 millimeters. If my window is 2 meters 30 centimeters long, then I will write this measurement as 2,300 millimeters. This is the standard in architectural and construction drawings. You can also measure it using a tape measure or with... I am using a laser distance meter. I will carefully measure the length of the loggia and record this measurement in millimeters. Of course, it's best to make a detailed measurement drawing with two people. One person takes the measurements and the other records them in an organized way. This way, it goes faster. These are the kinds of marks you make. The little ticks are made to indicate from where to where this measurement will be taken. These small ticks are used to show up to which exact point the measurement is made. So here, I should have a larger distance, because here I have a meter, and I can tell that it's clearly not a meter here, based on the position of these ticks. So I take this kind of measurement, making sure to align the object carefully with the starting tick and observing where it ends, to ensure that the measurement is as precise and accurate as possible. There might be a bit of a mismatch here, so I simply take this wall and move it just a little bit. Look, it's honestly not a big deal at all. There can be small discrepancies or minor differences when you're making a sketch, because there might be a bit of a mismatch, so I move this wall a little. See? It's not a big deal. Small discrepancies can happen when sketching by eye. For example, I started drawing not with a pencil, but with a liner. Now, to remove this line, so this way, I can't erase it with an eraser anymore. I take some correction fluid and cover up this line. It's also called whiteout. You can buy it at stationery stores. There you go. That's how we make corrections. Once it dries, I'll write here the dimension. Now let's also add the overall dimension. Look, when we put a lot of small dimensions, when we measure the details, then we can also add dimensions that combine the whole chain. And look, for example, if I want to the dimension. So now let's also add the overall dimension. Look, when we put a lot of small dimensions, when we measure the details, then we can also add dimensions that combine the whole chain. And look, for example, if I want to now set the dimension of this niche, I draw most of the line toward that corner from which I will take the measurement. And don't forget to add these diagonal ticks as well. So it's dried here, right in this spot. And now I can write the dimension here. I put the measurement in millimeters, so it's 1,000. Let's add the internal dimensions as well. Here it is. I'll draw it now. It's indicated like this. There are such symbols that are used to indicate utilities. And in this case, here is the ventilation shaft. And look, in the bathroom, we have a ventilation shaft. Here it is. I'll draw it now. It's indicated like this. There are such symbols that are used to indicate utilities. And in this case, here is the ventilation shaft. There are special symbols we use to show utilities. The meters here are usually for water. We also take measurements here at this location using our equipment to ensure accuracy. It goes so quickly for me because I've already taken these measurements. This is the ventilation shaft and utility line. The meters are for water and we take measurements here. It may take you longer at first. For example, I find it more convenient to first outline all the vertical lines, since this helps set up a clear structure for the rest of the work. Then I start doing the horizontal ones, making sure they are straight and evenly spaced. After all the lines are finished and the written text has dried, which is important to prevent smudging, we can carefully erase the pencil line to leave the final piece looking neat and tidy. Well, take a look. Now once the text has dried, we can erase the pencil line. Now our work is finished.